Welcome to Those Flipping Guys. If you're here for the first time, you might have a question. What are these sessions all about? Real estate. Being taught by those flipping guys, two experts that are in the business and successful at it. You will have an opportunity to not only engage, but get involved and talk to them. Even if you have questions, hold the questions to the end and then bring them out and you get your questions asked. This is why we love doing these webinars, because it's interactive. We get to meet you, you get to meet us, everything comes together. Without further ado, let me introduce to you two good friends, business partners, and real estate experts, Gene and Angelo, those flipping guys.
Somebody makes $25,000. Is that a bad deal?
This is Gene.
I'm glad we put it for the higher price.
This is Angelo. They have been flipping homes since 2001 and have flipped over 3,000 properties. They buy houses for cash.
All done, baby.
No scripts here, no setup scenes, just real guys making real deals.
You're a nice guy.
No matter what your ultimate lifestyle looks like, you have to find a way to fund
Who
it.
wants to make some moolah?
So if you're ready to earn money, balance your life, and live your dreams, meet those flipping guys.
All right. Welcome back to another one of those flipping guys webinar sessions. And looking forward to today. We're talking about rental properties and Gene and Angelo. Where's Gene and Angelo?
I'm here.
Oh, there's Angelo. And there's Gene. All right, guys, we want to talk about rental properties. So, the first question I have for you guys is, you guys are always talking about the difference between wealth and income. So in real estate, what is the difference between wealth and income when it comes to real estate?
Well, in our business, we do a couple different things. One thing we do is wholesaling. That means we buy a property and we sell it before we ever have to close on it. Something else we do is we buy a property and we get a lump sum profit, a quick profit on it. The other thing we do is we buy, fix, and sell a property, okay? And that gives us a lump sum profit. But where we find that really makes the money, it builds the wealth, because all those monies, those quick pops, they help us pay our bills. We put money away for retirement or whatever. But that money gets spent. But where we really build our wealth is by holding on to rental properties. Rental properties are one of the best vehicles that we've had to build our retirement. I mean, Angela and I, we run our own business. It's not like we have a pension waiting for us at the end of 30 years. I mean, it's not like somebody's going to say, okay, you can stay on and we're going to pay you half your salary for the rest of your life. It's either we do it for ourselves or it doesn't happen. And the best vehicle that we found is by owning rental properties. And they've gone up tremendously over the last couple of years. But even if they don't go up, okay, it doesn't matter whether they go up or they go down. As long as the rental income keeps producing above what you owe on it every month, you're doing really, really well. And the most beautiful thing is, I ask people, I go, hey, man, how would you, I say, hey, anybody in here want to be a millionaire? Okay, anybody want to, be worth $1 million in the next 10 to 15 years? Or I say, well, buy $1 million worth of real estate and have somebody give you half their paycheck for the next 10 to 15 years. And guess what? That property will be paid off. You'll be a millionaire and you'll have income for the rest of your life as well as your children's lives and beyond.
Okay, and what about, the difference between flipping and rentals? Because I'm a little confused when it comes to that.
Yeah, so I mean, rentals are, you're holding. You're in for the long haul. It's not a quick flip. And flip is exactly what it sounds like. It's an income. It's not like a long-term strategy. It's a quick, if you're doing it right, 3 to 6 months, you're in and out. If you're doing it wrong, like a year and a half, you're in and out. We've had a couple of those. But the rental properties are long-term. They're set it and forget it. And, and Gene and I's philosophy about rental property is that, we look to keep them as until they're paid off. And, hopefully we don't need them between here and there. We don't need the income. We don't need the
equity.
The equity. So what we end up, we could keep them. And if we were able to keep them, we could will them to our kids. We can have a legacy fund, whatever it is. But that's the way we're looking to get out of the game. And it's just a way for us to look towards retirement.
Sure.
Yeah. So what I've got out of it so far is that, rentals will build wealth and flipping is the income. So explain to me why rentals build so much wealth.
Yeah. Well, the beautiful thing is that time happens, okay? 10, 15, 20 years is going to happen. So if you buy a piece of real estate today, okay, you put a renter in there, even if you had to use a mortgage for it, over time, you're either going to get your investment money back, okay, through the rents that come in, or you're going to pay off the mortgage, and the tenant is going to be the one that pays off the mortgage. So at the end of the day, if you buy a $100,000 property, the rents are either going to pay it off over time, and then you have income for infinity, or the tenants, they pay off your mortgage, and now you have 100% equity in these properties, and then you get income for infinity. And hopefully it continues to appreciate if you're in one of those kind of markets where you see appreciation.
Wow. Okay. And then you guys always talk about the 72 in terms of real estate. What is that rule?
Oh, okay. It's the rule of 72, and it doesn't have to do with just real estate. It has to do with your return on investment. Angelo has a Series 7's license, so go ahead, Ange, explain it.
Let's not talk about that. I don't use any of it. It's lapsed, and it's not mine anymore. So, but anyway, the rule of 72 is real simple. If you're getting 10% interest on your money every 7 years, you double your money. It's simple as that. So, you can do the same thing with real estate. And the nice thing is, Gina and I have an example where you actually say you only get 5% and you stretch it out. So what do you do? What are you doing with 5% appreciation? You're doubling your investment in, 18 years?
14 years.
14 years. So not so bad. So it's just the way we one of the ways we look at rental real estate, that very conservatively. So if you buy something that's at a value today of $100,000, we assume that in 15 years from now, the property should be worth around $200,000, and it's pretty consistent with what happens.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's very consistent with the general market in South Florida. Barring any crashes or what we call borrowed appreciation or whatever. But, the money just sits there and it grows. And this happens with your life insurance policies. This happens with your savings account. If your money is growing, if it's compounding every year, let's say the first year is $100,000 and you make 5%. The second year you have $105,000. You make another 5%. It's 5% on the $105,000 now, not the initial $100,000. At the end of if you're at 5% at the end of 14 years, that $100,000 doubled to $200,000. That's why it's so important for young people to get started in investing, whether it's real estate investing or putting money away in an IRA or some kind of investment or life insurance policy. The longer you do it, the better chance you have to have a big fat wad of money when you're ready to retire.
Now, Bert, when it comes to real estate, there's a whole nother set of rules, right? So now you can get, Gene mentioned that you can get a bank financing, right? So say now you get appreciation on $100,000, but you only put, say, 10% down for this loan. So your appreciation's on $100,000, but your initial investment's $10,000. That's when you really start to expound your money. So now you're having someone else lend you the money, someone else pay your mortgage off, and your investment in the property is only $10,000. So if that property goes up that 5%, you just made $5,000 on your $10,000 cash on cash, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's a 50% return your very first year.
That's awesome. I mean, every time I talk to you guys, even though I have a group of questions I always want to ask, I kind of come up with new questions as we go along. And a question I have is, if you're starting in this real estate thing or you're sitting on the fence thinking about it, would you guys recommend getting into flipping homes or rental properties or both? I mean, what would you tell that person that's thinking about getting started?
Okay. Angelo, I probably will say something maybe a little bit different. It all depends. Okay. If you don't have a ton of money, well, you got to maybe wholesale some deals build a it's not like a for sure thing that you're not going to have any losses. You could easily go a month or two without a tenant. Your roof could have to change your roof. You could have to change appliances. You know, there's situations. So you have to have a buffer in your bank account to cover any kind of problems that may have with your tenant or your rental property. So if you're like on a shoestring budget, my recommendation is to build your cash through wholesaling or buy, fixing, and selling until you have enough money to be able to cover, to cover any kind of pitfalls or downfalls. But having said that, there's people out there, they don't have time to wholesale or they don't have time to flip. They've got a full-time job. They're doctors or they have just full-time jobs. And, a recommendation is, hey, no matter what, right now, if you can't buy a property to live in, maybe it's too expensive or you don't know you're going to be staying somewhere long term, buy at least a property to keep as a rental, because once again, time is going to happen and that property value is going to get paid off, and appreciation is just a cherry on top. But having cash flow, having somebody else pay off your mortgage, and hopefully you have a couple more bucks left over besides the monthly mortgage payment. So if you have money and income, buy rental properties if you don't have the time to flip. If you have the time to flip houses and do rental properties, then do them both, okay? There's not just, only one direction. That's the beautiful thing about real estate, is that there's multiple ways, multiple income streams to make money in this business.
And Angelo, what's your feedback on that?
And to add to what Gene said is, yeah, of course it depends. And if you've got time, if you've only got time, you got to learn how to flip. If you got time and money, you can do both. If you've got money but no time, you do rentals. And that's just the long and short of it. The one thing that I really like to stress about what makes it so unique in the country that we live in is our country's got credit. So if you've got good credit and you've got a couple bucks in the bank, man, you get some awesome lending terms, And good credit is a pretty loose term these days. I mean, people are getting loans done with like a 630, 620 credit score, and that's not too tough to get. So that's the one thing that makes this the rental business so nice right now in this given environment is money's cheap, and they're giving it out again. And if you got a couple bucks to put down, you could really set yourself up for some wealth in the future.
Absolutely. And by the way, Angelo, man, I love what you just said. We need to have like a matrix like written down with your little formula. Man, you said that so beautifully. In all the years we've been working together, I've never heard it said so concisely. So that was beautiful, man.
Yeah, well, you're always talking, so I mean, I don't know.
One thing I want to bring up is that we're already getting some questions coming in, and we will be answering those questions as long as you stick around to the end of the webinar. However, let's keep going with the questions I've written down. Like, how do you determine a good deal when it comes to rental?
Okay.
That's our 1% rule.
Well, that was my second question tied into that question.
Right. Go ahead.
Yeah, so when it comes to rental properties, listen, at the end of the day, it's a long-term deal, okay? And by long-term, I mean, 10 to 15 years, maybe 20 years. So it's a long-term deal. The real quick way of looking at a deal is that if we use what's called the 1% rule. So therefore, if the rent is at least 1% of the value of or what you put into the property, then potentially it's going to throw you off, a 6 or 7 or maybe even 8% return on investment. Okay, that means that you'll make a little bit of money. You'll make some money on your investment. So therefore, if a property rents for $1,000 a month, you don't want to pay more than $100,000 for the property in an ideal situation. Okay, ideally you want to get $2,000 rent and pay $100,000 for that property, because you're going to get a much better return on investment on that property. However, in very competitive markets, that return on investment starts getting minimized. It starts going lower and lower and lower, because people eventually will start taking less and less returns, like we see down here in South Florida. It's very competitive. It's hard to make, a 10 or 12 or 15%, return on investment on your rental properties. I even tell people that, most people out there have savings account or want to have a savings account or a 401k or a life insurance plan where they put money in. They might put $100, they might put $1,000, they may put $5,000 or even more away every month, okay, into a savings plan. Bert, does that make sense? People try to do that, right? Okay, and in my opinion, that's a negative cash flow investment, right? Because you're putting money away with the hopes of that money growing at a potential interest rate, right? At a higher interest rate, right?
Right.
Okay, so if you end up putting in, $500 a month for a year, you saved $12,000, right? That's good, right? You did pretty good. If somebody saves $12,000 and you're the average person, that would be very, very good. And if they're have it in the bank, they're making 1% on that $12,000, 2%. Maybe there's some structures out there where they make 3 or 4% or what have you. Okay, so but you're putting money in every month and you're making a little return on investment. My personal feeling is that even if you have a rental property, if you have good cash flow, if you have surplus at the end of the month, even if you buy a property, right? I use the scenario, you should get rent. If you pay $100,000 for a property, you should get $1,000 in rent minimum for the property. Okay, that's kind of our basic formula. But even if you spend $150,000, right, and you only got $1,000 a month, and you had a mortgage on the property, and you were even losing a few $100s a month every month on your property. Let's say you ended up losing, $200 a month after your mortgage, after taxes, after insurance, after maintenance, management, everything else. Let's say you're like losing $200 a month. Not the best investment. I don't love that. That's not what I'm telling people to go out and do. But even if you do, right, if you're losing $200 a month and you have a property that you paid $150,000 for, okay, but in 15 years, that property is paid off, okay, you spent $2,000 a month, $200 a month for the first year. That's $2,400. That's $24,000 after 12 years. That's $36,000 after 15 years, right? So you spent $36,000 on this $150,000 property, okay? Now, and it's paid off now, and somebody else paid it off. You only spent $36,000 on this property, and you paid $150,000 for it. Hopefully, and in most scenarios, that property is worth $300,000 more. Your return on investment is unbelievable. And then on top of that, you have that income. Hopefully the rent went up. The rent went up. Maybe originally you started at $1,000. Maybe the rent has gone up over 15 years to $2,000. And now you're making $2,000 a month for infinity. That is an unbelievable investment. Even in the beginning, if you were losing money on it, it's still better than putting it in a CD or your bank account or anywhere. It's just you're going to make money. And I probably should have a graphic that'll help explain that a little bit better. But hopefully, you followed along. And if anybody has a question, I'm sure Angelo has a better way to explain it or a more succinct way of saying it. But we could definitely do it. But Ange, can you summarize that for me? I just said a boatload of stuff, and maybe I wasn't as concise as I'd like to be.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're looking to use the 1% rule, but in a lot of markets, it's not possible. So what all that we're trying to say is that if you can break even, or in the very least only lose $100 or $200 a month, do the math. It's still a good investment. Push forward, and you'll be happy in 15 years.
Yeah, so basically it's just long term. The whole thing is to hold on. And a lot of people try to think that it's immediate cash flow and they're going to go ahead and make their money and just run. No, real estate is about, getting involved, learning as much as you guys can. And that's one of the things I love about what you guys mean. We'll talk about it later, but we talk about the programs you guys have, the live coaching. That's why, you don't have a chart in front of you right now, Gene, but when you guys do those private seminars for your members and so forth, it's a little more different. This is just to give them information, but the important thing is for them to learn that this is a career path. It's not just an investment thing. And you guys have a lot of the trade secrets kind of. Let me keep going listening to you guys because as much as the average person is saying, well, it's a little too confusing and so forth, it's not. If you're paying attention, and that's why it's good to be a member when it comes to these webinars, because you can actually go back and see the pre-recorded sessions and then take some more notes, because it's like watching a movie. How many times have you seen a movie, then you see it again a year later and you're like, oh, I don't remember that in the movie. That's because you've expanded, you've learned, and certain things that you didn't catch the first time, you're going to catch the second time. So I always recommend the members to go back and look at the pre-recorded sessions.
Yeah, and one thing to add on there, Bert, we've had agents in our office. We've had people that we're teaching the business to, and they do what we say. We say, go ahead and do this. It's because they have enough faith in us, and they don't even understand why they're doing it, right? They don't even understand why they're doing it. But then a few months later, it's like, oh, that's why you said do this. That's why. Because it's just so much. It's like drinking out of a fire hose. You know what I mean? It's just too much information. But we've thought these ideas through, and many of the ideas we didn't even necessarily invent. They've been going through decades and centuries of building wealth, and we just kind of share it, and we've consolidated it, and we're just trying to share it. One thing I also want to say too regarding building wealth and owning rental properties is that I love this Anthony Robbins quote. And what he says is that, most people, they overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but they totally underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And that is a beautiful quote, because if I said to anybody, hey man, who wants to be a millionaire by the end of this year? Everybody raised their hand. Right. Now, how likely is that going to happen? It's not very likely, right? But if we can show them by buying $1 million worth of property over the next, few years, which isn't very difficult to do, if you have a job and credit, maybe a couple bucks in the bank, or a partner or a friend or a family member that can help you out, man, in 10 or 15 years after it's paid off, you really have $1 million or more in liquid, and not to say liquid, but in assets and equity.
Yeah, and probably even liquid, depending on how you do your business. The thing is, right. And that's one of the things I love about you guys, is that you're constantly learning. Even though some of the stuff you have may be old stuff and so forth, for some people it's new, you're always doing new things. I mean, you guys are doing webinars before people thought about doing webinars. We did a reality show before you got picked up for reality shows. I mean, you guys are always on top of your game, and that's why you guys are experts. I mean, and I'm saying that because I've been with you guys for several years now, and there's always something new. You guys are always moving and learning, and you have to do that when you're in that type of business. Another question I have is, what are the benefits other than income and wealth in owning real estate?
Oh man, that's the great thing about owning real estate is there's tax benefits, there's deductions, there's all sorts of things that can help you with your income tax. There's that's a huge one, by the way. I mean, you could really offset your income by owning rental property. And what was the second part of that question? I didn't hear the second part.
The question was, what are some of the benefits other than income in wealth in owning real estate or rental real estate?
Yeah, well, just to kind of reiterate what Angelo said, when you own these properties, you get what's called depreciation. Okay, and that means that you could take a chunk of the value of that property and you could write it off. And that comes off of your income, for a certain time. I'm not an accountant. The accountant handles all this. But you can write that off. So if your property depreciated $10,000, well, you can take $10,000 off your income for that particular year. It gets recaptured if you ever sell it. But one of the beautiful things is you try not to ever sell this real estate. It goes up. There's appreciation. And the other thing is that you can always borrow against the real estate. So if you have a property that's paid off and you need to get access to some of that money, well, you can borrow money against it. You can put a lien against it or what have you. And sometimes you can take that money out. Like if you borrow $50,000 that year, well, that's not really income. You borrow the money and your tenants end up paying it back for you over the next 10 years. So it's like kind of taking money out tax free.
Yeah, and in Florida for sure, you could refi a property and there's no tax consequence, which is an amazing thing. There are very little things that you could do in this country where you take out lump sum some amount of cash and not have to pay income tax on it. And owning real estate and refinancing real estate is one of them. Or as the fancy people call it, repositioning your portfolio.
Well, where and when should I buy rental properties?
Now.
Yeah.
Where?
Sure.
Honestly, real estate, I'm not even going to, my knee-jerk reaction when you say where is to say in your backyard. Now, ideally, there's different markets across this country that it's better to buy in than others, okay? So, like South Florida is a great market to buy in. However, you're going to have to pay more. The rents are very good here in South Florida, okay? 2-bedroom, not even in a wealthy neighborhood, it's $1,200-$1,300 a month for a 2-bedroom. That's really good. However, using that 1% rule, if it's $1,200 a month, you need to be into that property for less than $120,000. That's not that easy to find anymore. Okay, is finding a property that's less than $120,000 a unit. The value per unit has gone up. So sometimes you have to go outside your geographic territory, get a property manager, and buy elsewhere. And we're looking at buying properties, in a whole nother state right now. We've been buying properties to hold, several hours away from us, but because the returns are better. And that's what we're really looking for is the monthly returns. The appreciation, though, may not be as great. So it all depends upon what you're trying to accomplish. At the end of the day, Angelo and I, we just want to get a bunch of properties paid off. If they go up in value, that's fantastic. But at the Oh, sorry, I had a little glitch there. But at the end of the day, we want to have a bunch of properties that are paid off, and we have just income coming in.
But to get started, the sooner the better to get started. And to add to what Gene says is, we particularly like lower income properties because the returns are better. However, real estate's a personal thing. So if you don't want to buy in those areas, then don't. You're going to get a slightly less return, the nicer and nicer the area is, but just do what makes you comfortable. Whatever you're fine with, then that's the right investment for you.
I have a question. You guys travel a lot. You guys are all over the place. I seen you. You went to Cincinnati this year. You've been you went skiing and the whole stuff, and you guys are always traveling. Do you guys, as you're traveling, do you guys see, wow, this is a good opportunity? Do you guys see opportunities in different places? And if you do, what is it that triggers you when it comes to rental properties?
Real estate is not only our profession, but it's our hobby. Even if we didn't do it, we would still do it. You know what I mean? We'd still try and buy. It's interesting for me to go, in Vermont, and, I was up in Vermont for some holidays, some traveling and stuff. And I want to know what things are selling for in Vermont. I want to know what the rents are in Vermont. When we were in Cleveland, we're looking at deals and seeing opportunities, and we just love that. And so, yeah, we always look at, where the better opportunities are, of course.
Yeah, I've never been on a vacation where I haven't figured out what all the houses around me are going for. I just never have. And it's funny, but we do. Everywhere I go, I look, and the value. What we find is we keep coming back to South Florida. We're Florida guys, and we like Florida in general. And not to say these other markets aren't good, and we're not investing in them, but I just like that everyone comes back to Florida. Everyone wants to stay here, vacation here, live here, and so this has been a good market for us.
And I think that's a huge nugget you guys just gave to all the viewers, is that it's not like always being on, but it's an extension of what you guys do. So even if and it's funny though, because I know if you guys travel to another country, you'll still ask, how much are people renting for?
Yeah.
I think it's great. That's great information right there. Is owning rental property easy?
No.
Well, okay. It's easy for us now.
Right.
Because we don't manage it. Right, Ange?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna add. I mean, no, it's not easy. It's easy because we have a property manager or multiple property managers, but it requires a lot of attention, and it requires if you're lucky enough to hook up with the right property manager, then that mitigates your time, your effort, and your worries. But if you're trying to manage a property on your by yourself, yeah, it's definitely work. It's not easy.
Now, you said you have multiple property managers. When you guys started, I'm sure, for the person that's getting started, how many rentals did you need to eventually say, you know what, it's time for me to get a property manager?
Well, we realized that owning rental properties, it's a beautiful thing. However, it's a little bit of a distraction for us because, where we really make our income is like wholesaling properties and fixing them and flipping them, right? So if we have the opportunity to say make, $15,000 or $20,000 flipping this deal over here, or chasing down the $300 that the guy shorted us on at the rent, that gets neglected, right? Now, I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that that's smart. I'm not saying that's a good business sense. It's not, okay? But it's just there's only so much time in the day, right? And if I have an opportunity to make $15,000 over here or chase down $300 over there, I'm going to try and make $15,000. That's what I'm going to try and do. But it's very But it's very important to that $300 gets collected, because those trends, you want to make sure you get everything that you're owed. So having a property manager is imperative for what Angelo and I do. Okay. However, when you're first starting off, I would totally recommend doing it by yourself, understanding what goes on. Pray a lot that during the holidays nothing breaks down or what have you. But really, it's get used to it, and then once you're trading time for money. So if it's worth your time, we pay hefty. We pay like 8 to 10% a month for property management. Some people pay. You can do it for a little bit less. So if you have $20,000 a month coming in from your rental properties, and you're paying 10%, that's $2,000 a month that you're paying. And but if it's so much easier for Angelo and I to contact one person and say, hey, what's going on with this deal? On top of all of that, right, on top of the potential headaches and the management and the fees, I got to be honest, Angelo and I are kind of softies. So if somebody says, I can't pay because my mouse died, or my rabbit died, or I'm having hard times, it's hard. It's hard to say no to somebody, but I can be tough on my property manager to say, pay or go. They either pay or they go, right? That's what I tell them. I don't care, because they have to have that face-to-face meeting or that phone call, right? So it makes my life a lot better.
That's great. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one video real quick. We have a question of a person that wants to go live, and then I'll come back after the video, just a little commercial talking about the membership program. I'll be right back. Here we go.
We hope you enjoyed this webinar. Don't forget to log in or sign up for your membership to access the online membership center, where you can see all lesson replays, download the homework, RSVP for future sessions, and much more. You can even ask for help or request a topic to our members. Are you ready to get started? Log into our website and sign up.
All right, welcome back. We have a person. Can you put them through? They want to ask a question live. So, and that's the good thing about these webinars. I mean, not only can you come live, but you can write your question. You can come live like this person's about to do, and so forth. So, and then after that, what we'll do is I want to hear your final thoughts of today's session. I thought it was very powerful. It's a lot of good information, great nuggets. We have Lisa Mendez.
Hey!
Lisa Hernandez.
Bert,
Hey, how are you?
how are you?
All right, so what's your question for these guys?
My question is, I'm a realtor. So how does your program benefit a real estate agent?
It just so happens I'm a realtor also. And, it's funny because a real estate agent, it's a hard business. It's a very difficult business. It's a difficult job. And a lot of people don't appreciate what goes into actually doing a deal. But by doing flipping real estate, you're not working for somebody else. You're working for finding a deal for yourself. Because I'm sure you've come across good deals before, right?
Yeah.
And then you end up selling to somebody and they make a lot of money and you made a little bit of money, right?
Right.
So by being a real estate investor, you can make those gains, all right? Because it's your knowledge. You're the one finding and mining those unbelievable deals. So having control of your destiny by being a buyer, being an investor is very powerful when you're an agent. And I always tell people, even if they're a real estate investor, the very first thing they should do is become a realtor and get their real estate license, because there's a lot of tools.
The question was mostly like, when it comes to your guys' programs, like what are you guys, what are you guys going to do for someone like her? I mean, she's obviously interested. And am I right? Is that what you were asking, Lisa? Like with the
I mean, I do come across deals and stuff like that, but there's some insider information, that I would like more. You know what I mean? Like I would want more inside information than just finding a good deal. Like, how do I know it's a good deal? How do I know it's something I want to flip? Or, I would rather, right now financially, I would like to start off maybe with something like a rental, like they were talking about. But where to make sure I'm getting a good deal. It's not just something listed on the MLS that anybody can find.
Yeah, Gene and Ange, if you guys can talk to her about the seminars you guys do, the coaching program, and that amazing software you guys have once they become members on the back end.
Yeah. Okay. So your situation isn't unique, and we kind of take it for granted. My father-in-law tells me I can pick out a pair of socks. It takes me longer to pick out a pair of socks than it does to buy a property, right? Because we have confidence, we have knowledge, we have market. We can toss ideas against each other and say, Angelo, what do you think? Gene, what do you think? Right? Where's the opportunity? Is this a deal you wholesale? Is this the deal you buy, fix, and sell? Is this a deal that you should keep as a rental property? Right? And when you're just sitting there in your living room by yourself, or you're even just around other real estate agents who don't have that same mindset, it makes it very challenging. So being part of our, in our seminar, we go through all the different forms of how you make money and setting up your company, and so much ways of finding money to do the deals, which is a big problem. And then we do that in our seminar. And then also through our coaching program, we keep people accountable for their marketing and the phone calls they're putting in and what they're trying to build, as well as we're a sounding board to help evaluate the deals that somebody is looking at. So if somebody has like a hot deal, they can't wait, they can get in touch with us and we're going to help them. We'll look at the numbers with them. We'll look at the opportunities. We'll say, which path do we take this property? And that'll help give you the confidence to actually pull the trigger on something, right? That's really important.
Exactly.
Yeah. And if you're really looking to build a brand and build a name, and you need a CRM, you're looking to wholesale, you're looking to manage your buyers, you're getting leads. We have an unbelievable website that we've been developing over the last 15 years that pretty much gives you the face that the public's going to see. It gives you a site for buyers. It gives you a site for sellers that are looking to sell, seller distressed properties, as well as it helps manage all of your customers, all of your leads, all of your properties right there. And so, going through our mentoring program, we give you all those tools.
Okay.
Yeah, and most of the people that we deal with are realtors, and yeah, so it's very common for us to deal with realtors, and and it's easy. It's easy. We love doing that.
Okay.
The more
Cool.
the more you know, the better. Honestly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have plenty of, investors out there, but like I said, I'm not confident enough to say, oh, this is a really great deal.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what market are you in?
I'm in Miami.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, we know Miami really well.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Thank you for coming in and asking questions. And it's been a while since I've seen you, so it's nice
I
seeing you.
know. Alex and I had a date a couple weeks ago, but I guess we
Well, so
we'll
thank
try it
you.
again. All right.
All right. Guys, this is a great session. Before we go, I always like to ask you guys your final thoughts for today's session. Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Gene.
Go ahead, Ange.
So, my final thought about real estate or rental properties or what?
Whatever you want, Angelo.
I'm bringing in a special guest. Me and Cannoli are going to talk. This is Cannoli, my new puppy. Say hi, Cannoli.
Beautiful.
All right. All right. So listen, one of the most important things is that's pretty much the only thing that is going to help us retire. And, it's not without its challenges. And we're not here to tell you it's easy. We're not here to tell you that nothing breaks and everything's, amazing. But I don't want to know what happens 10, 15 years from now, and we don't have any of that. I don't want to know what happens in 15 years when, we haven't been doing this. So, we're being proactive about our future. No one's going to give you money. Nothing comes easy. And that's why we love the rental market so much.
Yeah.
But by the way, your Cannoli stole the show.
Well, Cannoli's the best, right?
All right, Gene.
I wish you could see the camera because when I start talking, Cannoli falls right asleep.
Yeah, well,
Look.
All right, Gene, give us a final thought.
Yeah, my final thought is, get started. Just do something. Do something to benefit your life. I like that expression. It says, do something now that your future self is going to appreciate, And so buy a piece of real estate, read a book about, get started, get your information, but don't wait. The other expression is, more is lost by indecision than wrong decision. Okay. If you have a long-term plan, sure, you might pay too much. You may put a bad tenant in. Things can happen. But at the end of the day, 15 years, 20 years, it gets paid off, this piece of real estate, and you're good. And don't just think about one. Think about, you having millions of dollars in real estate, because time is going to happen and they will pay off. Not say without headaches and without problems. The other one detail is make sure you get proper insurance on all the properties.
All right, thank you guys. Before we go, I want to say one more thing. If you guys love these shows and you like what they're doing, I really recommend that you subscribe to the newsletter, get more involved. If you like this, share it with someone that might be able to help their future. Get involved, because one of the things I like, and I've been in this industry for many years, is not real estate, but in the seminars and so forth. A lot of the people, you don't get to meet the real guys. These are the real guys. They get involved. They answer their Facebook themselves, even though they have a huge team behind them running all their marketing. I mean, they do get involved. And you're getting these guys, like right now, today, when you had questions, they actually are answering your questions. This is not a pre-recorded session. This is live. So get involved. Get involved with those flipping guys. You'll see them around more and more. They're all over the country. Eventually they'll be all over the world. Love these guys. Keep doing what you guys doing, and I'll see you guys next month. Keep making it happen.
I just want to come in here and thank you for being a part of this session, getting involved and participating. We love serving you. However, if you're not a member, I recommend that you sign up now. If you really want to learn, you really want to be part of a great coaching team, and you want to take your real estate game to the next level, you definitely have to become a member. One more thing, I want to make sure you log on to our website so you can watch our online reality show. Don't miss it. A lot of information, a lot of content, and it's really good stuff. I'll talk to you guys soon.